In the meantime, let's turn to Washington. Democrats are debating whether to begin impeachment proceedings against President Trump. This follows the release of the redacted Mueller report last week. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi has opposed that idea. She calls the Mueller report's findings, quote, a grave matter, though. House Democrats will hold a news conference sometime later today. Meanwhile, Republican Congressman Doug Collins is actually heading to the Justice Department today. He is going to review a less redacted version of the report. Meanwhile, President Trump has sent several angry tweets. He did so over the holiday weekend. He even used the word treason to describe his critics. Our White House correspondent Paula Reid has the latest.
A lot of great things happening for our country. Thank you very much.
As President Trump attended Easter services in West Palm Beach, special counsel Robert Mueller avoided questions outside his church in Washington.
Will you testify before Congress, sir?
No comment.
It's the first time we've heard Mueller speak since being appointed special counsel. The president's attorney, Rudy Giuliani, insisted it's acceptable to take information about an opponent from a foreign adversary.
There's nothing wrong with taking information from Russians.
Though the former prosecutor wouldn't recommend it.
I would have advised, just out of excess of caution, don't do it.
Congressman Jerry Nadler questioned why Mueller did not bring charges against those in the infamous June 2016 Trump Tower meeting. Donald Trump Jr., Jared Kushner, and then Trump campaign manager Paul Manafort, who met with a Russian lawyer promising dirt on Hillary Clinton.
They went to the meeting. That's conspiracy right there.
But in his report, Mueller explained he didn't bring charges against them because he could not prove they willfully sought to commit a crime. Senator and 2020 hopeful Elizabeth Warren distinguished herself among her Democratic rivals by unequivocally calling for impeachment over the weekend.
We have a Constitution of the United States, and it says when a president engages in this kind of activity, then it's time for impeachment.
But House Oversight Committee Chairman Democrat Elijah Cummings was more cautious.
I'm not there yet, but I can foresee that possibly coming.
Paula Reid is at the White House this morning. Paula, what exactly did Rudy Giuliani mean when he said there's nothing wrong with taking information from the Russians? I perked up when I heard that.
Well, David, clearly he doesn't understand election law 101, which is that a campaign cannot take anything of value from a foreign national. Now, Mueller's analysis of the Trump Tower meeting was pretty nuanced. In the report, they detail how they looked at this meeting where the president's son, Donald Trump Jr., his son-in-law, Jared Kushner, and his former campaign chairman, Paul Manafort, all met with a lawyer promising dirt on Hillary Clinton. When they got there, she didn't actually have any dirt and nothing was exchanged. Ultimately, the special counsel concluded that even though it did appear that they could have broken the law here, there wasn't enough evidence to prove that they willfully or intentionally knew what they were doing here, which is why they opted not to charge them. There was no claim that this wouldn't have been a crime at all, or that the campaign would be able to receive things of value from a foreign national and be free and clear legally.
Oh, okay, I just want to follow up on something you just said, because I didn't know this. You're saying election law would prevent them from even taking information from the Russians since they're an adversary?
Anything of value. So it depends what kind of information, but certainly opposition research on your opponent, particularly with a very high profile scandal that she was embroiled in with her emails. That I think most lawyers would interpret as something of value. The thing is, when they got to that meeting, she didn't actually have any dirt, and she sort of shifted the conversation to talk about adoption and some other matters.
Got it.
Now, a lot of experts that looked at this, David, they said, look, this is Russian tradecraft. They just sort of, the lawyer just tossed out the sexiest thing imaginable to get all these folks in the room right down the hall from the candidate. It wasn't really about bringing them anything of value, but if it was and they took it, there might be different questions.
Fair. Interesting. All right. Meanwhile, Democrats are debating whether the Mueller report contains enough damaging information for impeachment proceedings to begin. Paula, because impeachment proceedings are political, what is the political standard, right? What's that bar for the Democrats where they say, okay, we're there?
Well, it appears they're not even, there's no consensus among them about exactly what that is, because, David, you see the top leaders in the party saying, whoa, let's proceed with caution. I'm not sure we're there yet. But then you see, for example, candidate and Senator Elizabeth Warren coming out, distinguishing herself among her colleagues, saying, no, guys, let's go for it. But there's a political reality here, David, is that it's very unlikely, even if this was to move forward in the House, which is where you have something akin to an indictment, then you move into the Senate for a potential trial. It's very unlikely that they would vote to convict and remove the president. They've never done that before. And of course, we have a Republican-led Senate heading into a pretty high-stakes presidential race.
Bingo.
So politically, if you want to do this on principle, that's something some Democrats have argued. But realistically, the mechanics of this just aren't in the Democrats' favor.
Let's talk about Jerry Nadler, the chairman of the House Judiciary Committee. He issued that subpoena for the full report with some underlying documents. What exactly does he want? Does he want the report with zero redactions?
Yes.
Okay,
is he
I mean, what's the
report.
chances he gets that?
Slim to none. I don't think it's very likely that he's going to get it. One of the reasons is that this was pretty a lightly redacted report.
Right.
And it would be unusual for a federal judge to want to say, okay, let's start a standard where if you don't get everything you want from the Justice Department, particularly when it comes to grand jury material, you can come to us and we'll hand that over. Because there's a feeling within the Justice Department and largely here in Washington that anything you give to Congress, it's as good as just putting it on Twitter, David. I mean, oftentimes it leaks. So I think that for the first step here is that the Justice Department has made a good faith offer to Republicans, to anyone really, in the small group of leaders in this committee who want to come and view a less redacted, lightly redacted Mueller report. So there is more material. I think they have to go through that step first. The Justice Department has said they believe this subpoena at this point is premature. I wouldn't be surprised if this issue winds up in court. But right now, the law being what it is, I would be surprised if they allowed him or anyone else to have access to that grand jury material.
Paula, Mitt Romney put out a pretty strong statement about the president regarding what he read in the Mueller report. Are any other Republicans jumping on that Romney bandwagon?
Not so far. He seems to be out there sort of on his own, on this particular stance, interpretation of the Mueller report. A lot of Republicans are either trying to stick to the party line, which is, hey, this is a victory, no collusion, no obstruction. But many of them know that's not exactly a proper summary of the Mueller report. There's a lot more nuance there, and there are some political landmines that they're all going to have to navigate, particularly through 2020. And so far, not a lot of people joining the Romney camp, even if personally they may have some concerns about what was revealed in this report. Publicly, they're just all trying to wrap it in a victory if they talk about it at all.
Paula, thank you. I hear you're coming back a little bit later so we can talk about Game of Thrones.
Heck yeah.
Can't wait for that. Paula Reid at the White House. Thank you so much.